My name's Wendy Stillman and I grew up in Newport Beach. This is me at 15 growing up in the 80s in Newport, heart of Gen X. Super colorful and creative images were thrown at me at the time. The surf and skate culture was our way of life and our fashion. The industry was exploding with talented skaters and surfers that began traveling the world as the magazine sent home colorful images of these kids making a living, seeing the world in these fun clothes and getting to do what they love: surf, skate, ski, snowboard, and travel. As they traveled the globe to surf, they went to faraway islands and countries, picking up the local and tribal symbols and cultures and meeting all new kinds of people. While all this was happening, the art scene was exploding in New York City, where artists like Basquiat and Keith Haring were creating a cultural shift in art, colors, symbols, and energy that inspired other artists like Peter Webb, an Australian artist who was the main designer at Quiksilver at the time. Peter Webb started using these inspirations on the new line of merchandise he created for Quiksilver, called the War Paint series. From 1985 to 1988 and even beyond, Webb created a new style that all the beach kids immediately adopted. He combined the urban art scene from New York City with the tribal island vibes that the international surfers were experiencing. And soon this style took over the entire surf, skate, and snow apparel industry. Forward to 2015 when I became a mom and an art docent for the first time with Young at Art. We did a project called Boom for Real, studying Basquiat. I used this as an opportunity to do larger scale paintings and was very inspired by Young at Art, so much so that I became the Penny Camp chairperson for a few years in a row, curating and installing all the Young at Art shows for our cafeteria. Taking my kids to see art, finding art outside of the house and doing art inside of the house, we were very inspired. I started showing my work publicly and really putting myself out there. It was at this point that I was really painting full time. I started a company. I started painting for myself. I started painting for clients, doing commission work, and really exploring all different types of mediums and colors, characters, symbols, and swirling together this Boom for Real inspirational Young at Art piece, along with all of my learned Gen X surfer skater days back from Newport with Peter Webb and Basquiat and Keith Haring all kind of swirling around in my head. Started painting as much as I could. I even entered a group show down at Resin Gallery in Hermosa Beach. I was creating new pieces, I was showing publicly, and I was doing commission work. It was really fun. I started really gathering a big body of work and even eventually started getting some solo shows. I was contacted by Two Guns Coffee and we did a solo show there. It was super successful. It was really great to see the community come out to support me and just support local art in general. I always came back to my kids and Young at Art, though. We would do these really great shows for Young at Art every year and show off all the kids' work. I would always create a big piece in the middle that all the kids could come and sign, and at the end we would raffle it off to a winner. I started to gain some recognition and was contacted by South Bay Magazine as they did an article about me, about Young at Art, and about how my art was influencing the kids and the community. At that point, I started working on really big pieces and taking stuff to galleries and working with local and regional galleries. I just kept creating and creating as much as I could and just always looking back to Peter Webb and Basquiat and Keith Haring and all the 80s colors and vibes and activities to really create the new content and all the different paintings and styles and colors that were swirling around in my head and get them out onto canvases, onto skateboards, onto surfboards, and any kind of medium I could. I started making merchandise with t-shirts and bags and note cards. I even got a chance to go to Vans headquarters with Resin Gallery Youth Program, where I was introduced to being able to design your own custom vans. From there it took off and I started doing collaborations and selling custom art vans and making surfboards and skateboards and all kinds of things with my art. It's at this point as an artist that you really start to notice that your style is coming together really cohesively. I felt really comfortable with my art, and at that point decided to circle back with my kids, as I always did, and see what they thought. So we decided to get a booth at the hometown fair, and my son and my daughter started creating their own little paintings, and we made some merchandise with their art and with mine. It was really cute to see them as little entrepreneurs and their friends coming out to visit and see what was happening. I also at this point was doing a lot of commission work and doing projects for private clients. I was painting everything I could get my hands on, like jean jackets and anything else. I started doing ceramics and starting to manipulate clay and figure out how to get my style onto this new medium. And I was working with designers to see what kind of paintings matched best with the private clients' houses. Either working in my studio or out at shows at Resin and being really busy. I started looking online and collecting old pieces of Peter Webb's War Paint series from Quicksilver back in the 80s. I was having lots of fun collecting and wearing it when I was going skiing and on family trips and finding stuff for my son and I. I started being asked by people in the community to do fundraisers for the Rich Stone, for kinds of companies. I started doing collaborations with companies like Legends and making socks, which sold out immediately. I messed around with rubber stamping and had so much fun. I painted everything I could, as always, painting beach bags, painting my kids' helmets, painting my own bike helmet, and getting back into the classroom as I always wanted to do and circle back with Young at Art. And then I'd quickly transition back to doing collaborations with fun companies like Hammett and doing fun cartoons just to keep me busy and keep me creative. I started thinking about an art project that I wanted to present to Young at Art, so I brought a bunch of kids in and we came up with a fun project. While waiting to hear back from Young at Art, I started getting ready for another show at the Manhattan Beach Art Center. It was a great opening, and it was a super proud moment for me to have my parents there. In a few weeks, boom, the pandemic hit. After the tragedy of George Floyd, we came together as a community down at Resin and put together an amazing show called Solidarity. All the paintings were on plywood from all the stores in downtown Manhattan Beach shops and restaurants. We were able to walk kids through and show them all about the social justice issues happening outside of the bubble. As life got back to normal, I started painting again, anything I could get my hands on, from pickleball paddles to anything skateboard, surfboard. I started doing more collaborations with a scarf company called Vismaya, and of course back with Two Guns as they celebrated their 10-year anniversary, putting my artwork on their coffee tumblers and painting the outside mural with two buddies. This led to a new love and passion for painting murals. I painted a few walls in Hermosa at Red and Louie's Pizza and again at the Gerando walls down in Hermosa. I was even asked to design an album cover for a Christmas album, and that was a first for me. Then I started preparing again for a solo show at Culture Brewing in downtown Manhattan Beach. So thankful for all the local businesses that support not only me, but our entire South Bay artistic community. Then it was time for me to start coming up with a new Young at Art project that I wanted all the kids to be able to do. I wanted to use simple paints and brushes and materials that all the kids would probably have at home and definitely have at school. I wanted to acknowledge all of the Basquiat, Keith Haring, Gen X, and Quicksilver influences in my life and let the kids know all about the history and the road that led it there. I hope you enjoy this project of the Gen X skater and enjoyed the presentation and where I got my inspiration. Thank you so much for listening.